Welcome to Manafacta. Okay, everyone, buckle up. Let's take a trip down memory lane. Not the fun kind with cotton candy and grandparents reminiscing about the good old days. No, we're talking pre-sliced bread, pre-Netflix, even gasp, pre-indoor plumbing. Imagine a world where you couldn't Google how to do anything. Fun fact, the first how-to guide was actually a series of cave paintings, where a trip to the bathroom was an outdoor adventure. And let's not forget the original bathroom reader, an actual tree, where waking up on time involved roosters, not snooze buttons. Sounds rough, right? Did you know the first alarm clock could only ring at 4 a.m.? Talk about a rude awakening. Yet here we are, living in a world shaped by the brilliant, wacky, and sometimes downright ridiculous inventions of our ancestors. This, my friends, is their story. And trust me, it's funnier than a politician trying to explain the internet. Well, not the whole story. That would take longer than a congressional filibuster. But we've got some good ones lined up for you. Like the time Thomas Edison electrocuted an elephant to prove a point. Yeah, that happened. So, sit back, relax, and try not to spill your pumpkin spice latte as we delve into the history of everyday things. You know, those things you take for granted until they break, and you're suddenly Googling how to fix while silently cursing the inventor's descendants. Let's do this thing. And remember, the next time your toaster breaks, just be glad you don't have to use a campfire. First up, let's talk about everyone's favorite porcelain throne, the toilet. This humble yet essential fixture has a fascinating history that spans centuries and cultures, or, as I like to call it, the porcelain god. It's a fitting name considering how much we rely on it every single day. Because let's be honest, we worship at its altar daily. It's a place of relief, contemplation, and sometimes even inspiration. Now, before this magical invention, things were different, very different in fact. Think outhouses, chamber pots, and, if you were feeling really fancy, maybe a strategically placed hole in the ground with a nice view. These were the primitive solutions to a universal problem. But then, some genius, whose name is lost to the annals of history, probably because they were too busy, using an outhouse, decided enough was enough. They envisioned a better way to handle human waste. They invented the flush toilet, and the world rejoiced. This was a game changer in terms of hygiene and convenience. Well, not immediately. It took a while for this revolutionary invention to catch on. People were skeptical and resistant to change. There were plumbing issues, societal taboos, and the whole convincing people to pay for a dedicated pooping chamber thing. It was a tough sell at first, but eventually, the toilet triumphed. It became an indispensable part of modern life, revolutionizing sanitation and public health, and thank goodness for that, because honestly, can you imagine going back to the days of outhouse yoga in the middle of winter? The thought alone is enough to make anyone shiver. I shudder at the thought. The convenience and comfort of modern toilets are something we often take for granted. Fun fact, Sir John Harington, godson of Queen Elizabeth I, invented the first flush toilet in 1596. He called it the Ajax, which was a pun on Ajax, an old slang term for toilet. His invention was ahead of its time. And did you know that ancient Romans had public latrines where people would sit side by side? Talk about a social experience. These communal toilets were a place for conversation and camaraderie. In medieval castles, they had something called a garderobe, which was basically a toilet that emptied straight down the castle walls. Not exactly the height of hygiene. It was a rudimentary solution, but it worked for the time. Here's a funny one. In the 18th century, French royalty used to have portable toilets called bordelus that they carried around during long ceremonies. Imagine the awkwardness. These portable potties were a sign of status and convenience, and in ancient Egypt, they had toilet seats made of limestone. Talk about a rock-solid throne! These were reserved for the elite and were quite the luxury. So next time you flush, give a little thanks to the quirky history of the toilet. It's a journey of innovation, culture, and human ingenuity that has led us to the modern convenience we enjoy today. Next up, let's talk about the unsung hero of rainy days, the umbrella. Because nobody looks cool getting rained on, unless you're Gene Kelly, but you're not Gene Kelly, you're you. And you look like a drowned rat. Now, the umbrella wasn't always the sleek, aerodynamic marvel of modern engineering it is today. Oh no, our rain-repelling friend has a long, storied past, dating back thousands of years. Early umbrellas were made from things like leaves, feathers, and even animal skins. And they weren't just for keeping dry either. Oh no, these early umbrellas were status symbols. A way of saying, hey, look at me, I'm so important I have someone follow me around with a giant leaf over my head. Of course, over time the umbrella evolved. It became more practical, less "look at me, I'm rich," and more "oh crap, it's raining sideways." But hey, progress, right? Did you know the first patent for an umbrella with a collapsible frame was filed in 1786? Imagine the inventor's frustration when it turned inside out for the first time. And let's not forget the quirky designs. From umbrellas that look like samurai swords to ones that change color in the rain, there's an umbrella for every personality. So, next time you open your umbrella, remember you're holding a piece of history. And maybe, just maybe, you'll feel a bit more like Gene Kelly. Ah, the alarm clock, that beloved device that drags us kicking and screaming from our slumber every morning. It's the friend who betrays you daily, yet you keep inviting back into your life. But before we had these delightful little torture devices on our nightstands, waking up on time was, well, let's just say it involved a lot more yelling. We're talking roosters, water clocks, candle clocks, even people whose actual job it was to go around knocking on doors to wake people up. Can you imagine? Fun fact, some knocker-ups used pea shooters to hit windows. "Hey Bob, time to get up for work." "5 more minutes, Mom." Except it wasn't your mom, it was some dude named Reginald who was getting paid to ruin your morning. And Reginald probably had a better aim than your mom. Thankfully, some brilliant soul invented the alarm clock. Did you know the first mechanical alarm clock could only ring at 4 a.m.? Talk about a rude awakening. Sure, it's annoying, but at least it doesn't judge you for hitting the snooze button 5 times in a row. Or 10. No judgment here. Alright folks, let's talk communication. Because nothing says I love you like a carrier pigeon covered in glitter glue. Or maybe not. Did you know Julius Caesar used pigeons to send messages during his military campaigns? Before the days of instant messaging, video calls, and cat memes shared at lightning speed, communication was a tad more challenging. We're talking smoke signals, carrier pigeons, messages carved into stone tablets. Talk about a long text. Fun fact, the oldest known love letter was written on a clay tablet in 2200 BC. It's a wonder anyone ever got anything done. Imagine waiting weeks for a reply, only to get "K. Honey, can you pick up some milk on your way home from hunting woolly mammoths?" 3 weeks later, what's milk? Did you know early humans used hollowed-out bones as primitive megaphones? But then, along came a series of groundbreaking inventions that changed the way we connect. The printing press, the telegraph, the telephone, the internet. Cue angelic chorus. Fun fact, the first email ever sent was by Ray Tomlinson to himself in 1971. Suddenly we could share ideas, news, and pictures of our lunch with the world. And let's be honest, the world is a much better place for it. Did you know the first webcam was used to monitor a coffee pot at Cambridge University? Well, maybe not the lunch pictures. Those can stay in your drafts. And remember, the first text message ever sent was "Merry Christmas" in 1992. Say cheese! The photographic journey. Okay, picture this. You're sitting perfectly still for 45 minutes while someone shoves a giant archaic camera in your face. No smiling allowed. And if you blinked, well, tough luck, you just ruined the photo. Imagine the patience and endurance required, not just from the subjects, but from the photographers as well. They had to ensure everything was perfect, from the lighting to the composition, all while dealing with the limitations of their equipment. Oh, and that weird smell? That's just the chemicals they used to develop the photos. Fun fact, some of those chemicals were so toxic they could knock you out faster than a Victorian fainting couch. The darkroom was a place of magic and danger where images slowly emerged from blank paper but at a cost to the health of those who worked there. Welcome to the early days of photography, a time when each photograph was a labor of love and a testament to human ingenuity. The sepia tones and daguerreotypes we now view as quaint were once cutting-edge technology, pushing the boundaries of what was possible. A time when capturing a single image was an epic undertaking, not something you did impulsively on your phone while waiting in line for a latte. And let's not forget, early photographers had to deal with subjects who thought the camera would steal their soul. The cultural perceptions of photography were as varied and complex as the technology itself, adding another layer of challenge to the art form. But those early pioneers of photography, they were onto something. Did you know the first photo ever taken took 8 hours to expose? Imagine holding a pose for that long. These pioneers were not just photographers, they were inventors, chemists, and artists, all rolled into one. Their work laid the foundation for the modern world of visual media. They understood the power of capturing a moment in time, even if it meant lugging around equipment that weighed more than a small child. And let's be honest, Some of those early cameras looked like they belonged in a steampunk novel. The sheer size and complexity of the equipment were daunting, yet these early photographers persevered, driven by their passion for capturing reality. And thank goodness they did. Their dedication and innovation have given us a window into the past, allowing us to see the world as it was, through their eyes. These early photographs are not just images, they are historical documents, preserving moments that would otherwise be lost to time, because without their dedication, we wouldn't have selfies, Instagram influencers, or those awkward family photos that your mom insists on displaying on the mantelpiece. You know the ones. The ones where everyone looks like they're in a witness protection program. These modern conveniences and cultural phenomena owe a great debt to the early days of photography. So the next time you snap a selfie, take a moment to appreciate the long, strange journey of photography. From the painstaking processes of the past to the instant gratification of today, photography has come a long way. Each click of the shutter is a nod to the history and evolution of this incredible art form. And maybe use a filter to get rid of that double chin, just saying. After all, even the earliest photographers knew the importance of a good angle. They might not have had Instagram filters, but they certainly understood the value of presenting their subjects in the best possible light. Can you hear me now? The telephone's transformation. Ring ring, it's history calling. And it wants to talk about the telephone. No, not your smartphone. The actual old-fashioned rotary dial operator connect me to Buttercup 4739 kind of telephone. Before this bad boy came along, long-distance communication meant writing letters, sending telegrams, or just yelling really, really loudly and hoping for the best. Romantic, right? But then, Alexander Graham Bell had other plans. He decided to invent a device that would allow people to speak to each other over long distances, and thus, the telephone was born. Of course, the first phones were a far cry from the sleek, pocket-sized devices we have today. They were bulky, expensive, and came with a whole lot of static. But hey, at least you could actually talk to the person on the other end of the line, even if it sounded like they were trapped inside a tin can filled with angry bees. Fun fact, the first words ever spoken on the telephone by Bell were, "Mr. Watson, come here, I want to see you." Imagine if he had said, "Can you hear me now?" And did you know that early phone booths were so small, people often had to crouch or twist themselves into pretzels just to make a call? Operators had a tough job too. They had to manually connect calls by plugging in wires, often ending up in a tangled mess. Talk about a knotty situation. Let there be light, and then some, the electric light bulb. And now, for the invention that truly illuminated the world, the electric light bulb. This little glass orb changed everything, because before electricity, things were pretty darn dark, literally. We're talking candles, oil lamps, and shadows everywhere. And if you were feeling fancy, maybe a gaslight or two, these were the high-tech solutions of their time. But mostly, people just went to bed when the sun went down. The night was a time for rest, not activity. Which, let's be honest, isn't a bad idea. Sleep is good. It's nature's way of telling us to recharge. But then along came Thomas Edison, a man who apparently never heard of beauty sleep. He was relentless in his pursuit of innovation. He spent years experimenting with different filaments, trying to find the perfect one, until he finally created a light bulb that actually worked. And the world rejoiced. It was a monumental achievement. Well, except for maybe the candle makers. They were probably less than thrilled. Their once thriving business faced a new competitor, but for everyone else it was a game changer. The night was no longer a barrier to productivity and leisure. Suddenly we could stay up late, read books, and enjoy activities that were once limited to daylight hours, and stumble around our houses in the dark without tripping over the furniture. It brought a new level of convenience. Well, we could still trip over the furniture, but at least we could see it coming. The light bulb made our homes safer and more functional. So, the next time you flip on a light switch, take a moment to thank Thomas Edison and his tireless pursuit of illumination. His work truly brightened our lives, and maybe also thank the candle makers just in case. Their contributions were important too. You never know when you might need a good backup plan. Candles still have their place in our modern world. Fun fact, Edison wasn't the only one working on the light bulb. He just happened to be the one who made it work best. Joseph Swan in the UK was also developing a similar invention around the same time. It was a period of great innovation. It was like a transatlantic race to see who could light up the world first. Both men made significant contributions. And did you know? The first light bulbs could only last about 1,200 hours. We've come a long way since then. Modern bulbs are far more efficient and long-lasting. So, next time you complain about changing a light bulb, just remember it could be worse. You could be reading by candlelight. Appreciate the convenience and progress we've made. Conclusion: laughing our way to the future. So there you have it, folks. A whirlwind tour through the history of some of the most important, most ridiculous, and most life-changing inventions of all time. From toilets to telephones, umbrellas to light bulbs, these everyday objects have shaped the way we live, work, and interact with the world around us. Did you know the first telephone call was made by Alexander Graham Bell to his assistant saying, "Mr. Watson, come here, I want to see you"? And while their origins may be humble, hilarious, or even a little bit gross, like the fact that the first flushable toilet was invented by Sir John Harington, who was also a godson of Queen Elizabeth I, there's no denying the impact they've had on our lives. So the next time you're enjoying a hot shower, sending a text message, or simply flipping on a light switch, take a moment to appreciate the ingenuity, creativity, and maybe even a little bit of luck that went into creating these everyday marvels. Fun fact, the first umbrella was used in ancient Egypt, but it was meant to protect from the sun, not rain, and who knows what the future holds. Maybe one day we'll be writing about the hilarious origins of self-driving cars, teleportation devices, or robots that fold our laundry. Imagine telling your grandkids that the first self-driving car had a tendency to get lost. Hey, a guy can dream, right? So keep dreaming, keep inventing, and keep laughing at the quirky journey of human innovation. If you found this video interesting and want to explore more about how things are made, built, discovered, explored, or manufactured, be sure to leave a comment, give it a like, and subscribe to Manafacta. And don't forget to watch next time for even more exciting content.